The alarm blared across Earth Command Station. Lieutenant Peters stared at his screen, his coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips. "Sir," he called to the duty officer, "we have an unidentified contact coming in from deep space." "Pirates?" "Commander," Williams asked, not looking up from his reports. "No, sir. The energy signature, it's human. But it can't be. It's got alien tech grafted all over it." Williams looked up sharply. "Put it on screen." The main display filled with the image of a ship. It was clearly human in design, but wrong. Sleek alien metal wrapped around its hull like organic armor. Strange energy fields pulsed along its sides. Most unsettling were the weapons. They looked like they had grown from the ship rather than being built into it. "USS Redwood," Peters read from his console. "But, sir, the Redwood disappeared 10 years ago during a deep space mission. They were declared lost with all hands." The comm system crackled to life. "Earth Command, this is Captain Ryan Hayes of the USS Redwood requesting docking permission." Williams grabbed the microphone. "Captain Hayes, this is Commander Williams. You've been missing for 10 years. Your entire crew was declared dead." A pause. Then Hayes replied, "Commander, it's good to hear a human voice again. We've been busy. Permission to dock? We have urgent information about a threat to Earth and the entire galaxy." Williams looked at Peters, who shrugged. "Permission granted, Redwood. Bay 12. But you'll have a security detail waiting for you." "Understood," Hayes said. "And Commander, you're going to want the Joint Chiefs for this meeting. What we have to say can't wait." Hours later, Williams watched through the observation window as the Redwood docked. The ship looked even more alien up close. The hull seemed to breathe. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface. The airlock opened, and 5 people stepped out. They wore uniforms that looked like they'd been designed by aliens but tailored for humans. Each moved with an unsettling grace, as if gravity affected them differently. Captain Hayes looked exactly as Williams remembered from his file photo, but there was something changed about his eyes. They seemed to see too much, to know too much. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Sanchez, Dr. Aaron Cole, Lieutenant Kate Bradley, and Chief Mike Torres. "Captain Hayes," Williams said, extending his hand. "Welcome home." Hayes shook it, his grip unnaturally strong. "It doesn't feel much like home anymore, Commander. We've been gone too long." 10 years, Williams said. "You must have quite a story." 3 years, Hayes corrected. "Time moves differently where we've been." In the briefing room, Admiral Jackson waited with the Joint Chiefs. Hayes and his crew sat at the long table, their alien-influenced uniforms stark against the sterile Earth military decor. "Captain," Admiral Jackson began, "reports are that your ship has been modified with alien technology. Where have you been for the past decade?" Hayes leaned forward. "Admiral, 10 years ago we encountered something out there. Not friendly contact. Something that was hunting. Something that killed entire solar systems." "What kind of something?" General Brooks asked skeptically. Dr. Cole pulled out a device that looked like it was made of living metal. The room dimmed as a hologram filled the space above the table. The image showed a massive ship, black as space itself, with tentacle-like appendages that seemed to devour light. "The Devastators," Cole said. "They're not from our universe. They're from somewhere else, somewhere dead. And they're coming here." "Why should we believe this?" General Brooks asked. Kate Bradley stood and waved her hand. The air shimmered, and suddenly everyone could see space around them, stars burning, bright. "Because we've spent 10 years learning to fight them. Because we watched them destroy 3 inhabited solar systems. Because we barely survived our first encounter." The illusion faded. Admiral Jackson stared at Bradley. "What did you just do?" "The aliens who helped us survive, they taught us things," she said. "Enhanced our bodies. Gave us new abilities. It was necessary to stay alive." Mike Torres stood and demonstrated. He moved across the room faster than human eyes could follow, then stopped, as if he'd simply walked. "The Devastators aren't like anything you fought. They adapt to your weapons instantly. Regular bullets, missiles, energy beams. Nothing works for long. Lisa Sanchez said, "That's why we had to modify everything. Our weapons, our ship, ourselves. The aliens who survived devastator attacks, they shared their technology with us. We've spent 3 years for us, 10 for you, learning how to fight them." "And where are these helpful aliens now?" Admiral Jackson asked. "Coming here," Hayes said. "They call themselves the Remembrance. They're the last survivors of dozens of worlds. They'll arrive in 2 months. The Devastators will arrive in 18 months. We need to be ready." General Brooks slammed his fist on the table. "This is ridiculous. You disappear for 10 years, come back with a Frankenstein ship and some story about monsters from another dimension?" Hayes looked at him calmly. Then he pressed a button on the alien device. The room filled with the sound of screaming. Images flashed across the walls. Worlds burning. Civilizations ending. Entire species being consumed by darkness. "General," Hayes said quietly, "I've watched 3 billion sentient beings die. I've seen planets cracked open like eggs. I've fought things that shouldn't exist. So when I tell you the Devastators are coming, you have a choice. Prepare with us or die unprepared." The room fell silent. Admiral Jackson finally spoke. "What do you need?" "Everything," Sanchez said. "We need to upgrade every ship in the fleet. We need to train every soldier in new combat techniques. We need to integrate alien technology with human engineering. And we need to do it all in 18 months. Hayes stood. "Admiral, in 3 years, we've gone from a simple exploration crew to something else. Something designed to fight an impossible enemy. But we can't do this alone. Earth needs to evolve too." As they left the briefing room, Lieutenant Peters heard Hayes say to his crew, "They'll resist the changes at first. They always do. Until they see what's coming," Torres replied grimly. Williams watched them walk away, their enhanced movements graceful and alien. He wondered if saving humanity meant becoming something inhuman. Outside, the Redwood waited, its hybrid design a promise of the changes coming to all of them. 3 weeks after the Redwood's return, Earth Command was split down the middle. Half believed Captain Hayes and his crew. The other half thought they were either lying or had been compromised by alien influence. Admiral Jackson called another meeting. This time, every major world leader attended via secure video conference. Hayes and his crew stood before them, the weight of the world on their shoulders. "Captain Hayes," President Martinez said, "we've had our best scientists examine the footage you provided. They say it could be faked." Hayes nodded calmly. "I expected skepticism. Dr. Cole, show them the biological evidence." Cole pressed his device and microscopic images filled the screens. "These are DNA samples from Devastator scout units. Notice the cellular structure. It's silicon-based, but organic, impossible by our current understanding of biology." "Could be engineered," suggested General Chen from Beijing. "Could be," Cole agreed. "But look at this." The image changed. "These are samples from my own blood. The nanites you see were introduced by the Remembrance to help us survive. They're still active." General Brooks scowled. "So you've been infected by alien technology?" "Modified," Lisa Sanchez corrected. "Not infected. The modifications allow us to interface with hybrid equipment, survive in hostile environments, and react faster than normal humans." "Show us," demanded President Okafor from Nigeria. Kate Bradley stepped forward. She closed her eyes for a moment, then her hands began to glow with a soft blue light. The air around her shimmered, and suddenly everyone could see the room from multiple angles simultaneously, as if they were looking through dozens of security cameras at once. "This is what we see when we focus," she said. "Multiple perspective analysis. It helped us anticipate Devastator attack patterns." The demonstration ended. Several world leaders looked shaken. Russian Premier Volkov spoke first. "How do we know you haven't been turned against humanity?" Mike Torres stepped forward. "Because we've bled for humanity, sir. Because we've watched our friends die. Because everything we've done has been to give Earth a fighting chance." He pressed his device, and the room darkened. A video began playing from the Redwood's cameras. The footage showed a beautiful planet, blue oceans and green continents visible from orbit. Then the darkness came. Massive Devastator ships emerged from what looked like tears in space itself. They moved like living things flowing across the planet's surface. This was Keth Prime, Torres said. Population 6 billion. We watched from the edge of their system. The Devastators consumed everything in 12 hours. The video showed cities crumbling, oceans boiling, and the very ground being pulled into the Devastator ships like water down a drain. They don't kill, Aaron Cole explained. They consume. They break down matter and energy and absorb it into their mass. Every planet they consume makes them stronger. The room was silent as the video showed the planet's core being extracted, leaving nothing but scattered debris. Hayes spoke next. This is what's coming. In 18 months, they'll reach in our solar system. The Remembrance calculated their route using quantum tracking methods. Earth is their target. Why Earth? Asked President Martinez. Because we're alone, Sanchez said. No allies, no advanced defenses. To them, we're easy prey. General Brooks stood up. Even if this is all true, how can we trust alien technology? How do we know it won't turn us into something non-human? Hayes looked him in the eye. Because, General, being human won't be enough to survive what's coming. We need to evolve or die. Are you saying we should all become like you? Asked Prime Minister Chen. No, Hayes said. We're saying you need to choose. Stay purely human and face extinction, or adapt and survive. Dr. Cole activated another program. DNA helixes appeared on the screens, human and alien sequences merging and separating. The modifications are reversible. They're not permanent genetic changes, but temporary enhancements. Nanite-based, they can be removed after the threat is dealt with. And if some of us don't want these modifications, asked President Okafor. Then help us in other ways, Torres said. Not everyone needs to be enhanced, but our fleet needs to be modified. Our weapons need to be upgraded. Our defensive systems need alien sensors to even detect Devastator ships before they attack. Lisa Sanchez stood. Sirs, madams, we've seen what works and what doesn't. Conventional weapons are useless. After the first few minutes, the Devastators adapt too quickly. But hybrid weapons combining human and alien technology can stay effective longer. How much time do we have? Asked Admiral Jackson. Hayes consulted his device. 18 months until they reach our system, but they'll send scouts first, small ships to test our defenses. Those will arrive in about 6 months. Can we detect them? Asked General Chen. Kate Bradley smiled grimly. Yes, with the right modifications to our sensor arrays. We can also help train your pilots to recognize their attack patterns. The meeting continued for hours. Questions about the modifications, the alien allies, the weapons technology, and the timeline were asked and answered repeatedly. Finally, President Martinez spoke for the assembled leaders. We need proof. Real, tangible proof that this threat exists. Hayes nodded. He'd been expecting this. The first Remembrance ships will arrive in 2 weeks. They carry survivors from destroyed worlds. People who've lost everything to the Devastators. Will you at least listen to them? And if they're hostile? General Brooks asked. Then we'll deal with them, Hayes said simply. But they're not. They're refugees just like we were before we learned to fight back. Admiral Jackson stood. Very well. We'll prepare for these Remembrance ships. But understand, Captain, any sign of deception or threat, and we'll treat your alien friends as enemies. Understood, Admiral, Hayes replied. As the meeting ended, Lieutenant Peters approached Commander Williams. Sir, do you believe them? Williams watched the Redwood crew leave. Their movements were too fluid, too perfect. They moved like a team that had shared death and survival. I believe they believe it, he said, and that's enough to make me nervous. Outside, the night sky looked peaceful, but somewhere out there darkness was moving toward Earth and time was running out. 2 weeks passed, and the first Remembrance ships arrived. 3 vessels, unlike anything humans had built, hung in orbit near the moon. They didn't look like ships at all, more like living creatures made of metal and light. Colonel Steve Johnson, stood in the Situation Room, studying every detail of the alien ships. "I don't trust them," he said to Admiral Jackson. "The Hayes crew comes back changed, tells us scary stories, and now alien ships show up right on schedule. It's too convenient." "The scans show no weapons," Admiral Jackson replied. But his voice held doubt too. "Maybe they don't need weapons," Johnson suggested. "Maybe the weapons are the people they've already changed." Meanwhile, Ambassador Helen Parker prepared for first contact. She'd spent 2 weeks learning what the Hayes crew knew about remembrance language and customs. Now she would be the first human to meet them without the Redwood crew present. In Bay 7, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Walsh worked with Lisa Sanchez to understand alien technology. Walsh was Earth's best engineer, but the hybrid systems baffled him. "How does this work?" he asked, pointing at a device that seemed to bend light around itself. "Think of it like quantum manipulation," Sanchez explained. "It doesn't just deflect energy. It redirects the quantum probability of being hit." "That's impossible," Walsh said. "So were flying machines once," she replied. "The Devastators forced us to expand what's possible." Near Earth, pilot Alex Chen flew training exercises with Kate Bradley. Chen was the best pilot in the human fleet, but Bradley made him feel like a beginner. "You're thinking too much," Bradley said through the comm. "Feel the ship. Let the neural interfaces guide you." "I can't interface like you can," Chen protested. "I'm not modified." "Watch," Bradley said. She shut off her engines and let her ship drift. Then, impossibly, it began moving again, not with thrusters, but as if the ship itself was alive. "The modifications help," she admitted. "But the real secret is understanding that technology and biology aren't separate anymore. Everything we use is partially alive." That night, alarms blared through Earth Command. 3 human ships had disappeared. From the patrol grid near Jupiter. "Pirates?" Commander Williams asked, arriving in the command center. "No, sir," Lieutenant Peters replied. "The ships went dark simultaneously. Perfect coordination. Someone knew their schedules." Admiral Jackson arrived moments later, followed by Captain Hayes and Mike Torres. "Sabotage," Torres said immediately. "Someone inside Earth Command is working with the Devastators." "That's impossible," Colonel Johnson snapped. "How would humans even contact them?" "The Devastators don't just consume," Dr. Cole explained, appearing on the comm screen. "They recruit. They find beings who will trade information for power." Admiral Jackson's face darkened. "Start internal security protocols. Everyone gets screened. Hayes, Torres, I need your team to help identify the saboteur." "There's something else," Hayes said. "The Remembrance ships detected scout probes in the asteroid belt. The Devastators are mapping our system earlier than we expected." Johnson stepped forward. "This is exactly what I warned about. Aliens arrive, and suddenly we have saboteurs and enemy scouts. You're leading us into a trap." "Or, we're finding out how deep the trap already is," Torres replied coldly. The tension in the room exploded into shouting. Half the officers sided with Johnson, believing the Redwood crew was compromised. The other half supported Hayes, seeing sabotage as proof of the threat. Admiral Jackson slammed his hands on the table. "Enough." He turned to his senior staff. "As of now, we run parallel operations. Johnson, you'll investigate the Redwood crew and the Remembrance. Hayes, you'll hunt for saboteurs and prepare defenses. Both teams report directly to me." Later that evening, Helen Parker made contact with the Remembrance. The alien ambassador was a being of shifting colors and gentle sounds. Through translation, devices it spoke. "We are the last of the coalition of stars. 37 worlds fell before we learned to run. You call them Devastators. We call them the Endless Hunger. Can you help us fight them?" Parker asked. "We can share knowledge, technology, warning, but fighting, that you must learn for yourself. Each species must find its own way to resist." "The Hayes crew says you modified them, made them stronger. We offered. They chose. Modification is not without cost. You become more, but different. Some species choose extinction over change," Parker thought carefully. "And the saboteur in our ranks?" The aliens' colors shifted to deep purple. "The Hunger Scouts more than space. It scouts minds, finds those who fear change more than death, offers them false safety in exchange for betrayal. Across Earth, underground groups formed. Some supported full integration with alien technology. Others demanded isolation and traditional defense. The split grew deeper each day. In a secret facility in Colorado, Lisa Sanchez and Ben Walsh successfully merged human and alien tech into a prototype fighter. "It works," Walsh said with amazement. "The quantum shields respond to pilot thought patterns?" "Good," Sanchez replied, "because we'll need 100 of these in 3 months." At the same time, Colonel Johnson's investigation uncovered something troubling. The saboteur had accessed not just military systems, but civilian infrastructure. Water treatment, power grids, communication networks, all had been mapped and copied. "They're not just planning a military strike," Johnson reported to Admiral Jackson. "They're planning to destroy our society from within." Admiral Jackson made a decision. Issue the alert, full spectrum preparation, military and civilian sectors. We're upgrading everything. "The people won't accept forced modifications," General Brooks warned. "We're not forcing anything," Jackson replied. "But we are making the choice available to everyone, and we're hardening all systems against sabotage, with or without alien tech." In orbit, the Remembrance ships began broadcasting something to Earth, a message that repeated in all human languages. "The hunger comes. Choose your form of survival. But choose quickly. Time flows differently for predators." Captain Hayes stood on the observation deck of Earth Command, looking at the Remembrance ships in the modified Redwood. Below, cities lit up as people debated their future. "Sir?" Kate Bradley asked, joining him. "Do you think they'll choose change?" Hayes was quiet for a moment. "Humans are stubborn. We resist until the last possible moment. But when we finally move, we move fast and hard." "I hope that's enough time," she said. "It has to be," Hayes replied, watching as modified fighters launched from Earth for their first test flights. "Because ready or not, the scouts are already here." The first Devastator scout ships appeared 3 months early. Not 1 or 2, but a dozen emerging from what sensors called probability fractures near Neptune. They were smaller than expected, each about the size of a battleship, but they moved wrong, like liquid metal poured through space. "Contact in 12 hours, Lieutenant Peters announced, his voice tight with fear. General Tom Barnes had been skeptical of the alien threat until this moment. Seeing the scout formations execute maneuvers that defied physics changed his mind instantly. "Admiral," he said to Jackson, "I owe Captain Hayes an apology. Cancel my objections and put me to work." Admiral Jackson nodded grimly. "Better late than never, General. Take command of the hybrid fighter squadrons. We need your tactical experience." In the shipyard hidden behind the moon, Chief Engineer Mary Wright directed the largest construction project in human history. 3 months of around-the-clock work had produced 50 hybrid fighters and modified 12 heavy cruisers. "How many ships do we actually need?" Wright asked Lisa Sanchez as they reviewed production schedules. "According to the Remembrance data, each Devastator mothership controls about 1,000 scouts," Sanchez replied. "And the main force brings 5 motherships minimum." Wright stared at the numbers. "We'll have maybe 200 ships ready when they arrive. That's not nearly enough." "It doesn't have to be enough," Captain Hayes said, walking up behind them. "It just has to buy us time to find their weakness." Hayes had been working with Colonel Jack Miller to develop new combat tactics. Miller, a Marine with 30 years experience, had adapted quickly to the idea of fighting alien monsters. "We can't fight them head-on," Miller explained to his combined forces, human Marines trained alongside Remembrance warriors, their different anatomies creating unique challenges and solutions. "The Devastators adapt to direct assault within minutes. We hit fast, pull back, hit from different angles." "Like guerrilla warfare in space," suggested Captain Susan Blake, a former Special Forces commander. "Exactly," Miller confirmed. "And thanks to the modifications, our enhanced soldiers can coordinate attacks across multiple dimensions." Dr. Emma Roberts, Earth's leading physicist, worked closely with Dr. Aaron Cole to understand Devastator biology. What they discovered changed everything. They're not really alive, Roberts explained to the Joint Chiefs. They're more like quantum programs, self-replicating patterns that exist between dimensions. Can we shut them down? Asked General. Barnes.Cole activated a holographic model. Theoretically, yes. They operate on quantum frequencies. If we can generate the inverse frequency, we might be able to disrupt their cohesion. How do we do that? Admiral Jackson asked. The Remembrance has been working on it for centuries, Roberts said. They've built a device that can generate the inverse frequency, but it requires massive power and perfect timing. Where is this device? Demanded Colonel Johnson, still suspicious of alien gifts. That's the problem, Cole admitted. It's on their homeworld, which is on the opposite side of the galaxy. They're trying to bring it here, but 3 Devastator scout groups are hunting their transport. In training facilities across Earth, humans faced a choice. The modifications offered by the Remembrance weren't mandatory, but those who accepted them could interface directly with hybrid technology. By the 4th month, 40% of Earth's military personnel had undergone the process. Pilot Alex Chen stood in the medical bay, watching nanites enter his bloodstream through an IV. Kate Bradley held his hand. Does it hurt? He asked. No, she said. It feels like waking up, like you were asleep your whole life and didn't know it. Chen felt the change almost immediately. Colors became brighter. Sounds had more depth. His awareness expanded beyond normal human senses. I can feel the ships, he whispered in amazement. Not just mine, all of them. It's like they're extensions of my body. Bradley smiled. Now you understand why we had to change. Fighting devastators with normal human limits is like trying to box a hurricane. Meanwhile, the saboteur struck again. Power grids across North America went dark for 17 minutes, long enough for updated defense protocols to be copied and transmitted into deep space. They're reporting our preparations to someone, Torres told Admiral Jackson, and we still don't know who the spy is. Then we use it against them, Jackson replied. Feed them false information. Make the devastators think we're weaker than we are. Colonel Miller implemented the deception, false patrol routes, fake weakness in shields, fabricated disagreements about alien technology. Through carefully leaked reports, Earth appeared to be splitting apart from within. The real truth was different. Production had accelerated beyond projections. Modified humans and pure humans worked side by side, each using their strengths. The Remembrance shared more technology daily, sometimes things they'd kept secret even from the Hayes crew. Why now? Ambassador Parker asked the Remembrance leader. Why share everything when you held back before? The aliens' colors shifted through a complex pattern that translated as profound sadness. Because survival now requires trust, and because if we fail here, there's nowhere left to run. As the 6th month approached, Earth's defensive preparations neared completion. Modified fighters patrolled in pack formations. Planetary shields, powered by hybrid reactors, hummed to life. Communication arrays could now tap quantum frequencies to coordinate across vast distances. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Redwood, now designated flagship of the unified fleet. Around him, human and alien officers worked at stations that merged biology with technology. First wave scouts will test our defenses tomorrow, reported Commander Williams, now modified and serving as his executive officer. Let them come, Hayes replied, looking at the tactical display. Every probe they send gives us data. Every scout that returns tells their masters we're dangerous. Sir, Lieutenant Peters called from communications, his enhanced reflexes making his work incredibly precise. The Remembrance transport is approaching the edge of our system. The quantum device is aboard. And the Devastator groups hunting it? Hayes asked. Engaged with our outer defense perimeter. It's about to get very interesting. Hayes looked out at the space around Earth. Ships of 3 different species moved in coordinated patterns. Weapons that shouldn't exist powered up. Shields that bent. Reality flickered to life. All hands, he announced fleet-wide. This is what we trained for. This is what we changed for. Hold the line. The fleet responded with 1,000 voices, human and alien mixed together. In maintenance bays, Marines checked their weapons. In sick bays, medical teams prepared for casualties that would challenge everything they'd learned about anatomy. In command centers, officers who had chosen different paths of evolution worked together toward the same goal. Earth's first battle for survival was about to begin, and humanity would never be the same again. The first Devastator scouts hit Earth's outer defenses like a black tide. Modified fighters met them near Jupiter, their hybrid weapons firing energy that twisted space itself. But the scouts adapted quickly, their dark hulls shifting to deflect. The attacks. "They're learning our weapons faster than expected," General Barnes reported from the command center. Losses at 30%. Captain Hayes watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. "Pull the fighters back. Begin Phase 2. Either. Retreat wasn't a defeat, it was planned. As human fighters withdrew, massive quantum mines activated along their path. The Devastator scouts following aggressively flew directly into the trap. Explosions bloomed in space like deadly flowers. The mines didn't just damage the scouts, they disrupted their quantum cohesion. Half the enemy vanguard shattered into their base particles. "Direct hit on their command scout," reported Lieutenant Peters, his enhanced senses tracking data streams. "Wait, something's happening." The remaining scouts began to merge. Instead of separate ships, they flowed together into one massive entity. Where there had been a dozen vessels, now there was one the size of a space station. "That's new," muttered Colonel Miller from the Marine Deployment Center. "They're adapting to group tactics by becoming a group," Dr. Cole observed. "We need different strategies for different configurations." The merged scout began its assault on Earth's inner defenses. Energy beams that could melt asteroids struck the planetary shields. For 3 hours, the quantum barriers held. Then the main Devastator fleet arrived. They didn't drop out of hyperspace or use any familiar means of faster-than-light travel. Reality simply tore open, and 5 massive motherships poured through. Each one dwarfed Earth's moon, their surfaces crawling with organic machinery. "All hands, this is Admiral Jackson," the fleet commander announced. "Execute Protocol Omega." Earth's entire defense grid activated simultaneously. Every weapon platform, every shield generator, every modified ship opened fire. The coordinated assault was like nothing the Devastators had faced before. The combined firepower of 3 species focused on a single point. One Devastator mothership staggered under the assault. Its hull cracked, bleeding dark energy into space. But the other 4 responded by releasing clouds of smaller fighters, thousands of them, moving in perfect precision. "Captain, the Remembrance quantum device is ready," reported Commander Williams aboard the Redwood. "But we need to get it within 300,000 kilometers of a Devastator mothership core." Hayes turned to his crew. "Then that's what we do. Redwood Squadron with me. Everyone else keep them busy." The Redwood led 12 modified fighters toward the nearest Devastator mothership. Anti-fighter defenses opened up immediately. The space between became a storm of energy and debris. "Sir, we're losing ships," called Lieutenant Bradley, her enhanced reflexes pushing her fighter beyond human limits. "Keep going," Hayes ordered. "Dr. Cole, how's our saboteur friend?" "Tracking him now," Cole replied. "The spy is Admiral Jackson?" "Negative," Torres cut in from the bridge. "The signal's using Jackson's codes, but originating from below him, someone in the command center." On Earth, pandemonium erupted as the true saboteur revealed himself. Colonel Steve Johnson had been playing a deeper game, feeding information to the Devastators while publicly opposing them. "You fools," Johnson broadcast as security forces surrounded him. "The Devastators offered us survival. Join them willingly, and live as servants or die as food. I chose wisely." General Barnes personally arrested Johnson. "You chose poorly," he said coldly. In space, the battle intensified. The Redwood fought through wave after wave of Devastator fighters. Katie Bradley's modifications allowed her to pilot in ways that defied human reflexes, dodging quantum-locked missiles and energy beams. "Device range in 60 seconds," Williams reported as the Redwood shuddered under enemy fire. Sir, we're not going to make it, Torres said, watching hull integrity drop. Hayes made a decision. All pilots eject. I'm taking her in alone. Like hell you are, came multiple responses from his crew. We've come too far together to split up now, added Mike. Torres, the Redwood surged forward, its hybrid engines screaming. The Devastator mothership grew massive in the view screen, its dark hull pulsing with alien energy patterns. Then something unexpected happened. The ship began to speak, not through communications, but directly into their modified minds. You cannot win, it said. We are entropy made manifest. We are the heat death of universes. Join us and know eternity. Sorry, Hayes replied mentally, but humans are stubborn that way. The quantum device activated. Reality seemed to pause. Then a wave of energy unlike anything anyone had seen rippled outward from the Redwood. The inverse quantum frequency crashed into the Devastator mothership like a tsunami. The effect was immediate. The ship's cohesion broke down. Its matter began separating into component molecules, then atoms, then subatomic particles. The process spread to the other motherships like a quantum infection. It's working, shouted Williams. All Devastator ships are losing cohesion, but the process was burning out the Redwood's modified systems. Sparks flew from control panels. The air began to taste of ozone and melting metal. Sir, we need to evacuate, Torres urged. Not yet, Hayes said, holding the ship steady. Another 30 seconds and it will hit critical mass. Around them, Devastator ships were dissolving into cosmic dust. Their escort fighters, cut off from the mothership collective intelligence, began attacking each other in confusion. At exactly 30 seconds, Hayes gave the order. All hands, abandon ship, now. The crew ejected in escape pods as the Redwood completed its final mission. The quantum device reached critical mass, sending one final pulse through the disintegrating Devastator fleet. 3 months later, Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the observation deck of New Earth Station. The combined human remembrance facility orbited between Earth and the Moon, a symbol of the alliance forged in fire. Any regrets? Asked Ambassador Helen Parker, joining him at the railing. A few, Hayes admitted. We lost the Redwood, we lost good people. We had to become something different than what we started as. But we survived. More than that, we evolved. He gestured to the space around them. Modified and unmodified humans worked alongside remembrance citizens. Ships of hybrid design patrolled space that had once seemed impossibly empty. The galaxy is bigger than we thought, Parker said. The remembrance tells us there are other threats out there. Hayes smiled, that look in his eyes that had never left since his return. Then we'll be ready. Humanity doesn't run from the dark anymore. We've learned to adapt to it. Below them, Earth turned slowly in space, changed but still home, different but still human. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes surviving meant becoming something more than you started as. In deep space, old emergency beacons awakened. New explorers would venture out soon, some modified, some not. All carrying the knowledge that darkness could be faced and overcome. The Redwood was gone, but its legacy lived on in every hybrid ship that left Earth's orbit. Humanity had returned from the edge of extinction, stronger than ever before.